In this lecture, I want to teach you how to do star ratings. We see we have here 6 pictures, and I want to display below each one of them 5 stars, so that you can hover on them, select the number of stars you want to assign to the picture, and then click on it, and that will set the rating. And the rating is individual per user, so I may assign 3 stars, but you may assign 4 of them. So let's look at the starting point for this lecture. So the code that displays these figures. First of all, I define 2 database tables. There is a table images that contains image URLs, and there is a table stars that contains a reference to an image, a reference to a rater, and a rating, which is an integer. For example, for the image number 1, the rater that corresponds to user Luca could have given 3 stars. Okay? So these 2 database tables are initialized in the controllers in setup. So before you do anything, you should visit the setup URL because this clears the databases and inserts in the image database the image URLs. Okay? I do this just to give you an easy starting point with some content already available. So the rest of the code corresponds to a simple Vue app that loads the images, and it works in this way. The index controller will just pass to the view 3 URLs, the URLs to get the images, the URL to get the ratings, and the URL to set the ratings. The index per se is done with Vue.js, so it contains a template. You see the template has a class container, then some columns, and in the columns I put the images with a v-for loop. So the code is very simple. I iterate image in images. Images will be a list of images that I fetch from the server. And here in the template I put out a div of class box that gives me this nice box. And in it I put an image with the source field of the image bound to the image URL. Notice the use of vbind source to define the value of the source field. I think as an abbreviation I could have just written :src, okay, but I chose to write it in the long form. Here there is also an empty div where I will put the image for the star rating code, the code for the star ratings. At the moment there is nothing written because I have not implemented star ratings yet, okay? So this essentially is a template that puts out 1 box per image that I want to have. And the index.js, so the JavaScript that powers this template, is as follows. I have images, which is a list. It will be a list of URLs. I need to fetch it. So if we read the code in the order in which it's executed, we will see that the init method of the Vue app does an Axios get to the getImages URL, and once it receives a result, it lets images be the result data images. Okay, so the images field of the data. We will see in a moment how this is generated. Then I enumerate the images, as I always do, because I like to have an index for each image. And then finally I set these to the list of images. AppVueImages is equal to images. To generate this list of images in the controller, this is quite easy. I have in getImages a query, and I say db images. This will select fetch all the images. Then I say select, and then I say as a list. As a list is important because when I return this dictionary, I want a dictionary that maps the images tag to a list, because JSON, which is used to encode this result, is able to convert a list to a JSON representation. It may not be able to encode any iterator to a JSON representation, or at least I'm not sure. And so I like to use as list to be explicit. Please give me the result as a list. By the way, we can see the code in action. We can go in here. We can look at the networks tab, always a useful place to keep an eye on. And so when I reload this page, I can see the call to get images, and I can examine the result, and I can see that this is the result. So it's an array, right? It's a list in which there are various objects, in which every object has an ID and an image URL. This ID and image URL correspond to the fields of the database. So if in the database declaration, if you recall, we had the image URL field, and the ID field is added automatically. So when I fetch everything from the controller by saying db images.select, I will get a list containing the ID and the image URL. Okay, this is the beautified representation. If you look at the raw representation, you see that it's a list of images is a list of ID and image URL. Perhaps in this case it's easier to look at the raw, so you should always toggle depending on what's easiest. Okay, so this is what we have so far. We have a Vue app that loads the images, displays the images. It also gets a get rating URL and set rating URL, but there is no rating code yet. So let us consider how to do the star rating code. I have star icons. One is this, e class is equal to fa star. Okay, this is one star, the filled one, and the unfilled one is e class is equal to fa star o. This is with Font Awesome 4.7. If you wish to use the Font Awesome 5, read the instructions. But you have to use, in any case, a pure CSS icon set. If your icon sets include JavaScript, the JavaScript has a tendency to interfere with the Vue.js JavaScript and lead to corrupt results. So if you do like to use the newest Font Awesome, remember that you have to use the pure CSS version of it. You can download it, okay? But I'll be using the old one just because I'm more used to it. Okay, so these are two stars. Let's just look how they look if I reload the page. Okay, so one is full and one is empty, and I want to put 5 stars below each image, and I want the stars to behave as follows. When my mouse is out of the region, when I'm not mousing over, essentially, I want the number of full stars correspond to the rating. When instead I mouse over the stars, I want that the number of full stars corresponds to the position of the mouse, so that it gives me an indication of how many stars I would be setting if I clicked. Okay? And so, because of this, I wanted to associate it with each image 2 quantities. I want to associate the true rating, so the number of stars, and I want to associate also the number of stars to display. Normally, when you're not hovering, these two numbers will coincide, right? If the duck has 3 stars, the true rating is 3 stars. When I'm out and not hovering on the stars, the number of stars that will be displayed is also 3. But when I will be hovering over the stars, the true rating will be 3, even if I hover on the 4th star, but the 4 stars will be filled to give me the indication that if I click, the rating will be set to 4, okay? So for each image, I keep these 2 distinct quantities. And so the first thing I have to do is to extend the code to decorate each image with these 2 quantities. So let me do this. In addition to app enumerate, I say app.complete. I could give it another name, I guess, but I have a lack of fantasy at the moment. And so here I take the images and I say something like images.map, and take a single image and apply to it this function that will say image.number of stars is equal to 0. This is just to initialize it, okay? And image number of stars to display is equal to 0 as well. So this is just an initialization function. And I will be calling it from here. okay, app enumerate images and also app complete images. Okay, so when I get the images, I set these ratings to 0 for each one of them. Now, here I have gotten my list of images. But what I need to do is get the rating for each image, and the rating is dependent on the user. So let me add here code that asks what is the rating of each image for the current logged in user. Okay, I say another then, you can concatenate then. This is one of the beauty of promises, right? Axios get returns a promise, I can then it once to use its result, and then I can then it another time to specify another operation to be done once I get this result, that is, once I get the list of images. And so here I write a function that actually takes the empty argument, and sorry, I just wanted this to look slightly better. Okay, and here what I want to do is this: for let image of app view images. So this iterates over the images, and for each image I want to ask the server the rating of this image. And so here I say Axios get of get rating URL, and I want to send some parameters, right? So the params are a dictionary in which I say image ID image.id. No? So I want to get the rating for this specific image. I do not need to specify the user because the user will be derived from the cookie, and so it will be the current logged in user. Okay, so once I do this, I say then result. So I've gotten the rating for the particular image. So, and what I want to do is this: I want to say image dot number of stars, num stars, is equal to result data. How did I call it? Let me check. Rating. Okay, rating. Okay, image number of stars to display is equal to again the same thing. So image num stars, for instance. Okay, and that's it. And I'm just checking that I close all the appropriate parentheses, but I think I do. Okay, so maybe a semicolon here, etc. So this essentially enables me to fetch the rating of each image and to appropriately initialize the two fields, num stars and num stars display, which I use to drive the display of the images. Okay, these are the same two fields. Good. So at this point, I need to go back to the template. Here I was putting out one full and one empty star, and here instead I have to put out a sequence of 5 stars, of which num stars are full. Actually, num stars display are full, and the others are empty. So we need to do that. So let me remove this code and instead put some other code that will do the actual job. So let me put here a span that for the moment does nothing. You will see later why I'm using it. And inside I put another span that it will contain an individual star. So this span is v4 is equal to star index in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I want to essentially put out 5 of these spans, one for each star index. Okay, and here, so I have the star index, I have the image, and I want to say the star is full if the star index is smaller than or equal of the number of stars to display, and otherwise is empty. That is what I want to say. And so to say that, I simply say here is an icon, class is equal to fa star. Okay, so this is a full star, and sorry, I just copied twice. and this is the empty star. Okay, and so I have to put out one or the other depending on whether the index is smaller than the number of stars to display. So I use the VUIF directive. VUIF is equal to star index smaller than or equal image num stars display, which is what was driving the display. And here instead, for the other case, I just have another clause that says instead of smaller than or equal, greater. Okay, so I will put out a full star or an empty star according to the star index compared to the number of stars to display. So this does it, and maybe at this point we should check that the code works. So let's see if the code works. It doesn't. Yes, so I see that there is an error. I go to the index. These images is not defined. I think I made a mistake. I wrote here an A and it was supposed to be images. So let me fix that quickly. That's why it's convenient to do debugging, to do testing while you develop. It's easier to catch the errors. I should have seen it from the highlight. Images. Okay, so if I do this, let me try again, and it works. Okay, I mean nothing happens, but I display 5 stars that are all empty because so far the ratings are all 0. So far so good. Now I have to add behavior to these stars. The first thing I want to implement is something that ensures that when I mouse over the stars, that number of stars gets filled. So to do that, I go here, and there is I go to the index, and in the span for every single star, let me enlarge this span tag because there will be various things that I want to write into it. So I want to have a handler for the mouse over event. The mouse over event is the event that's generated when the mouse is over a particular element. And I want that when this happens, we call a method in the Vue controller called starSover, and I want to say which image and which star. So I want to say image.index, these are our own enumeration of the images, and then I want to say star index, which gives us the star index. Okay, so this will be enough. And now I have to implement this starSover method. So I go to the Vue, and here I say starSover app.starSover. Okay, not very novel so far, but here we finally implement it. So this is a function that takes 2 parameters, the image index and the number of stars. Okay, and what do we have to do? Well, first of all, let's fish out the image out of the array of images. So app Vue images of image index. Okay, this gives us the image whose stars we are hovering on. And then we simply say that image number of stars to display is equal to number of stars. Okay, so if you hover over the 3rd star, we will have 3 stars to display. That's all I do for the moment. Okay, so if we do this, let's reload the page a moment and see whether this works. Yes. Perfect. Maybe not so perfect. But I will take care of these later. You see, the problem is that when I stop hovering, this doesn't go back to the original rating. Actually, maybe I should take care of it immediately. So the hovering action is perfect. But when I stop hovering, when the mouse goes out of the stars, I should set the number of stars back to the rating, which in this case originally is 0. Okay, and instead I don't do it. So I have to implement an action in case you move the mouse away. That event is called the mouse out event, and it will be handled here. You see, the reason I put a span around all these is that I wanted to have a single span here to catch the mouse out event. This span contains all the 5 stars, and so if I do a mouse out here, I catch the event of when you move out of the star region. It wouldn't be quite the same to put the mouse out event here, because this would be caught whenever I move out the mouse out of a single star, and I don't want to do that. I just want to trigger these when I move out of the rating region as a whole, okay? And so here I do stars out, for instance, of image index. So I'm saying essentially, hey, I moved out of the rating region for this particular image. Now I have to implement these. And so let me do that. So here I have another method that is called stars out, app.stars and then I say app.starsout is equal to a function that takes an image index, and that's it. It doesn't take a number of stars, okay? But so I, just like here, you know, I fish out the image out of the array of images. And what do I do is simply say image number of stars to display is equal to image number of stars. Okay, so I set the number of stars to display back to the rating of the item. That is the piece I was missing. So let me save these, and now I can reload this page, and let's see what happens. I mean, the hovering behavior is still correct, but now when I move out, okay, good. You see, when I move out, this gets reset to the rating, which in this case is 0 because it hasn't been set. So now both the hovering and the mouse out work, and the thing that doesn't work yet is clicking, because I may click as many times as I want, but no setting is set, no star rating is set, because there is no handler for the click event. So I need to build a handler for that event, and I go here, and where I wrote mouse over, I say click is equal to click is equal to set stars of image index and star index. Okay, so so this will be it, and now I need to define this method in Vue, and I define it here. Set stars app.setStars app.setStars is equal to a function that takes the image index and the number of stars. And by now you have sort of understood that the first thing we do will be fishing out the image on which the rating applies. So what do we have to do here really? Well, we have to do two things. One is the easy one, and the other one is the sort of harder one. The easy thing is that we have to say that the rating of the image is equal to the number of stars you're hovering. So this is image number of stars is equal to the number of stars. Okay, so this sets the rating in JavaScript. The problem is that now we actually need to also set the rating in the controller. So we need to communicate the new rating to the controller. To this end, I say Axios post. So we do a post to set rating URL, and the parameters will be image ID, that will be image.id, and the rating, that will be number of stars. Okay, and in this case actually there is no then. We are just letting the server know, but there is no action we need to take once the server says that this has been stored. Okay, now this is all very good, but of course we have to implement now the server methods. So let's look at the server methods one moment. So we need to implement two methods, get rating and set rating. Get rating, you know, we hadn't implemented it actually. The ratings were always 0 because that was the default. So let us do it now. Action get rating. action.uses, what do we need? URL signer.verify to verify the signature. We need the database, and we need the auth user to check the identity of the user, because the rating we are giving is for that particular user. Okay, so def get rating, and here we say image ID is equal to request params get of image ID. Okay, so we fish it out of the request parameters. Maybe it would be better to convert it to an integer as well. Then we take a database row, which is from the database we say db stars image is equal to image ID, and db stars rater is equal to get user. That gives us the ID of the current user. Okay, we select this row, and we do the select of the query, and we just get the first row. Okay, rating is equal to row.rating, because in the models we called rating, right? So row.rating, if row is not none, it's 0. There is always a possibility that there is no rating, because the user may never have rated before that particular image, so we need to handle that particular case. Return dictionary of rating is equal to rating. And so this key here is, if I have not made a mistake, what we use in the initialization method in getRating here. Okay, so this is a connection. You see, we do a query with a parameter of image ID, and we return a rating. And so here we get the image ID, and we return the parameter rating. Good. This is one. And now we have to do set rating. Set rating is a post to the set rating URL, and we pass the image ID and the rating. So that's what we have to implement. So if we go to implement it, we go to the controller and we say action set rating. Action uses the same as before, actually. So here I need to say also that the method is gonna be post. Okay, def set rating. Okay, so here the fun begins. So I fish out the parameters. Image ID is equal to request JSON get image ID. Rating is equal to request JSON get of rating. Okay, so now I finally have them. And now I have to do an update. So there could already be a rating, or there could not be. So I have to do essentially a sort of case analysis. If there is no rating, I need to insert it for the particular user. If there is already a rating for that image by that particular user, I need to do an update. So there is a function of the database abstraction layer that helps us do that. It's called update or insert. And it works as follows. I do db stars, okay, update or insert. And so this update or insert takes first a query. If the query returns something, this turns into an update statement. If the query does not return anything, then this will be an update. So the query is, in our case, db stars image is equal to image ID. Okay, and db stars rater is equal to get user. Okay, so essentially if this query returns true, there is already a rating for this particular image and this particular user. And then I just want to update it. I don't want to insert another rating for that image and that user. If instead this query does not return anything, I want to do an insert. I do this because I want to have, for each pair of images and user, only one rating. I don't want that the duck, as rated by Luca, has both rating 3 and 4. This wouldn't have any meaning, right? I want to ensure that there is only one rating, and so that's why I use this update of insert, to essentially ensure uniqueness of the rating of an image by a user. And so, in any case, I need to specify the full parameters as if this was an insert. So I say image is equal to image ID. Rater is equal to get user. Okay, and rating is equal to rating. And this should do it, and I can just say return OK. So remember, it's quite important to ensure uniqueness of these ratings, and so I use this update of insert that will test whether what I wanted to be unique exists, and then perform either an insertion or an update according to the outcome of the test. Very useful command and very important concept. So we can now see whether all this works. So I need to reload, right, because I did changes on the server. Then I go here, I reload, and I check the console because I want to be sure that I don't see any error here. I may want to keep an eye on the network tab. I may want to clear it. So in this tab, all means all requests, but XHR are only the JavaScript requests. And this is useful because it avoids all the static requests such as for images and other stuff. So we can focus on our interaction essentially. So let's see whether this works. I can hover and this works, but what if I click on 3 stars? We can see that this is a set rating. The result was OK. The request had image ID 1, rating 3, so it seems reasonable actually. I don't know whether this has been written in the database. A sort of lazy way of checking is for me to reload the page. And I want to see again 3 stars when I reload. Yes, this seems to work. So now I can go to the rabbit and give it 4 stars. Okay, we can see another set rating. And you see, if I hover, it gives me the number of stars I'm hovering on, but if I click, it will set to that number of stars. So I clicked on 5 stars. If I now hover out, it will show me the real number of stars. And so on and so forth. 2 stars, well, 2 stars, poor bear. Okay, 2 stars to this colander, etc. And so if I reload, I should see that this stays unchanged. Okay, and then you can try with for yourself. You can log in as another user, and you should see that everything is unrated, just like the cowboy hat, and that you can enter your ratings that are independent of the rating of the other user. I will not do this here, but you should do it for your own testing. Okay, so as a recap, what are the interesting things we have seen? We have seen in the post the use of update or insert to ensure uniqueness of the rating. I think this is the most novel thing we saw in the controller. In the template, we saw the use of these events: mouse out, mouse over, and click. And notice that the mouse out, I applied it to a span that contains all the rating region. Because if I applied it to each star individually, I would get a mouse out event when I mouse out of a particular star, maybe to move to the next one. Instead, I just want to know when you move out of the rating area altogether. Okay? And in index.js, actually, there is nothing really quite novel. Maybe the only new thing we have seen is that you can add the 2 thens to the same promise, right? So you can essentially concatenate the thens. To concatenate actions that are done one after the other. So that's it, and on the same model you can develop other animations to your taste.